Jello, and welcome back to The Devil and the White City. I believe this will be part 11. I'm gonna go ahead and start this up and get to reading. Lower the volume a little bit. And give a little update on life. Things are going decently, and by decently I just mean the studying's been a little more, how do I put it? It's flown, right? When you study the first time, it's hard. It takes a lot out of you. It's rough because you don't know anything, and then after a while, you pick up a groove, and you're doing relatively well. You're answering the questions before you finish reading the question, if you understand that. And things are going good, I think. I mean, people are still in contact with me for job opportunities, so it could definitely be much worse. Just got to keep nose to the grindstone and keep working hard and hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. And aside from that, we can get right into the book. Devil in the White City, chapter... Who knows? They don't call them chapters, but this is part 11. This is section Prendergast. On November 28th, 1892, Patrick Eugene Joseph Prendergast, the mad Irish immigrant and Harrison supporter, selected one of his postal cards. I don't even know where we're going to drop already. Let me drop this down. Let's go ahead and drop and hopefully hide out until... I want to win one of these games where I just hide out, 99% of the game I do nothing. Then that last 1% I just, completely rip these kids a new one. Why is the texture in this game so atrocious until now? Everything loaded in, I guess. I think we're fine. I gotta get to this bush right here. Oh, that's cute. You think you actually have to play the game to win? Noobs. Bunch of noobs. Alright, let's do this right here. Okay, cool. Let's continue. He was 24 years old now, and despite his accelerating mental decline, was still employed by the Inter-Ocean as a delivery contractor. The card, like all the others, was 4 inches wide by 5 inches long, blank on the face with postal insignia and a printed 1-cent stamp on the other. In this time when writing long letters was everyday practice, men of normal sensibility saw these cards as the most crabbed of media. Little better than telegrams, but to Prendergast, this square-off stiff paper was a vehicle that gave him a voice in the skyscrapers and mansions of the city. He addressed this particular card to A.S. Trude, lawyer. He sketched the letters of the name in large floral script, as if seeking to dispatch the cumbersome duty of addressing the card as quickly as possible. Before advancing to the message itself, that Prendergast had selected Trude to be one of his correspondents was not surprising. Prendergast read widely and possessed a good grasp of the grip car wrecks, murders, and city hall machinations covered so fervently by the city's newspapers. He knew that Alfred S. Trude was one of Chicago's best criminal defense attorneys, and that from time to time he was hired by the state to serve as prosecutor, a practice customary in particularly important cases. Prendergast filled the postcard with top margin to bottom, from edge to edge, with little regard for whether the sentence formed level lines or not. He gripped the pen so tightly it impressed channels into the tips of his thumbs and forefingers. I hate when that happens. Annoying things, right? I'll read that again. He gripped the pen so tightly it impressed channels into the tips of his fingers and forefinger. Been there? My dear Mr. Trude, he began. Were you much hurt? ? An accident reported in the press had caused Trude minor injuries. Your humble servant hereby begs leave to tender you his sincere sympathy and trusts that while he does not appear before you in person, you nonetheless will not have any doubts as to his real sympathy for you and your misfortunes. You are wished by him a speedy recovery from the results of the accident, which you had the misfortune to meet with. He wrote with a ton of familiarity that presumed Trude would consider him a peer. As the note progressed, his handwriting shrank until it seemed like something extruded rather than written. I suppose, Mr. Trude, that you do understand that the greatest authority on the subject of law is Jesus Christ. Whoa, wait a minute. And that you also know that the fulfillment of the whole law depends upon the observance of these two commands. Thou shalt love God most of all, and your neighbor as yourself. These are the greatest commands, if you please, sir. The note clicked from theme to theme like the wheels of a train crossing a freight yard. Have you ever saw the picture of the fat man who looked for his dog while his dog was at his feet and still did not have the wit to see what was the matter? Have you observed the cat? He did not add a closing and did not sign the note. He simply ran out of the room, then posted the card. Trude read the note and at first dismissed it as the work of a crank. The number of troubled men and women seemed to be increasing with each year passing. The jails were full of them. A warden later would testify. Inevitably, some became dangerous, like Charles Guiteau, Guiteau. I bet you couldn't pronounce it either, whoever's listening. Charles Guiteau, the man who had assassinated President Garfield in Washington. For no clear reason, Trude kept the card. We go into the next subchapter. It says, I want you at once. And we begin. In late November, the young Pittsburgh engineer once again put his proposal for out-Eiffeling Eiffel before the Ways and Means Committee. This time, in addition to drawings and specifications, he included a list of investors, the names of the prominent men on his board, and proof that he had raised enough money to finance the project to completion. On December 16, 1892, the committee granted him a concession to build his structure in the Midway Plaisance. This time, the decision held. He needed an engineer, willing to go to Chicago and supervise the construction effort, and thought he knew just the man. Luther V. Rice, assistant engineer of the Union Depot and Tunnel Company, St. Louis. His letter to Rice began, I have on hand a great project for the World's Fair in Chicago. I am going to build a vertically revolving wheel 250 feet in dia. And dia is literally D-I-A, like Spanish day, dia, in dia. I'm assuming that's a play on words to say the air, dia. I'm going to start using that now. Take a great whiff of the ah. I like that. Very British. Nowhere in this letter... You know what? I'm going to write that down. The ah. Turning two words into one. The air into the ah. Love that. I love that. Nowhere in this letter, however, did he reveal the true dimensions of his vision. That this wheel would carry 36 cars, each about the size of a Pullman, each holding 60 people, and equipped with its own lunch counter. Whoa. And how when filled to capacity, the wheel would propel 2,160 people at a time 300 feet into the sky over Jackson Park, a bit higher than the crown of the now 6-year-old Statue of Liberty. He told Rice, "I want you at once if you can come." He signed the letter George Washington Gale Ferris. Then we go into the next subchapter, and this is titled Chapel Redux. One day in the first week of December 1892, Emmeline Segrand set out for Holmes's building in Englewood bearing a small, neatly wrapped parcel. Initially, her mood was bright, for the parcel contained an early Christmas present she planned to give to her friends, the Lawrences. But as she neared the corner of 63rd and Wallace, her spirits dimmed. Where once the building had seemed almost a palace, not for its architectural nobility, but for what it promised, now it looked drab and worn. She climbed the stairs to the second floor and went directly to the Lawrences' apartment. The warmth and welcome resurrected her good spirits. She handed the parcel to Mrs. Lawrence, who opened it immediately and pulled from the wrapping a tin plate upon which Emmeline had painted a lovely forest. The gift delighted Mrs. Lawrence, but also perplexed her. Christmas was only 3 weeks off, she said kindly. Why hadn't Emmeline simply waited and given the plate then, when Mrs. Lawrence could have offered a gift in return? Her face brightening, Emmeline explained that she was going home to Indiana to spend Christmas with her family. She seemed delighted with the anticipation of a visit to them, Mrs. Lawrence said. She spoke in most affectionate terms of them, and seemed as happy as a child. But Mrs. Lawrence also sensed a note of finality in Emmeline's voice that suggested Emmeline's journey might have another purpose. She said, "You are not going away from us?" ? Well, Emmeline said, "I don't know. Maybe." All right, let's go ahead and reposition. So far, the book's giving us a lot of nuggets of information, all just in case. Decent nuggets of information, but I gotta take a piss, man. You know, when you're just focused on something, and then your bodily needs are just like telling you no. No matter what it is that you're into, it's just like, nah, we don't think so. It's like, dude, this chick is into me. She's literally into me, and it's like, no. The bathroom's more into you right now. It's like, okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and find a bush here. Wouldn't it be so cool if, like, pissing in Fortnite could count for pissing a human? Potty break. BRB. Alright, I'm back. I see there's a lot of fighting going on. It shouldn't be that way, really, but, it is what it is. Let's go ahead and see if we can, get a kill or something. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's happening here. See a lot of things happening here. Who are they shooting? Oh. Can I get this kill? Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, he knows I'm here. He knows I'm here. Can I pull it off? Alright, so I could pull it off, but I think I'm getting shot from somewhere else as well. Whoa, dude, whoa. Just be friendly, bro. Hiya. Yeah, I don't know where I'm getting shot from. Dude, I'm just trying to read. Oh. Damn. Well, let's continue reading while we spectate this. Such noobs, dude. Such noobs. Mrs. Lawrence laughed. Why, Mr. Holmes could never get along without you. Emmeline's expression changed. He could if he had to. The remark confirmed something for the Lawrences. It had seemed to me for some time that Miss Segrand was changing in her feelings towards Holmes, said Dr. Lawrence. In the light of what happened since, I believe now, that she had found out to a certain extent the real character of Holmes and determined to leave him. She may have begun to believe the stories she heard in the neighborhood of Holmes's penchant for acquiring things on credit and then not paying for them. Ooh. Stories she had heard all along, for they were rife, but that she at first had dismissed as the gossip of envious hearts. Later, there was speculation that Emmeline herself had trusted Holmes with her $800 savings, only to have it disappear in a fog of promises of lavish future returns. Jeez. Ned Connor's warning echoed in her mind. Lately, she had begun talking of returning one day to Dwight to resume her work for Dr. Keeley. Emmeline never told the Lawrences goodbye. Her visit simply stopped. That she would leave without a parting word struck Mr. Lawrence as being very much out of character. She wasn't sure whether to feel wounded or worried. She asked Holmes what he knew about Emmeline's absence. Ordinarily, Holmes looked at Mrs. Lawrence with a directness that was unsettling, but now he avoided her gaze. Oh, she's gone away to get married, Holmes said, as if nothing could have interested him less. The news shocked Mrs. Lawrence. I don't see why she didn't mention something to me about getting married. It was a secret, Holmes explained. Talk about gaslighting, man. Jeez. Emmeline and her betrothed had revealed their wedding plans only to him. What? Makes no damn sense. But for Mrs. Lawrence, this explanation only raised more questions. Right, yeah. Why would the couple want such privacy? Right, they're not fucking celebrities. Why had Emmeline said nothing to Mrs. Lawrence, when together they had shared so many other confidences? Mrs. Lawrence missed Emmeline, and the way her effervescence and physical brightness, her prettiness and sunflower hair, lit the sullen halls of Holmes's building. She remained perplexed, and a few days later again asked Holmes about Emmeline. Hopefully he gets his story straight. He pulled a square envelope from his pocket. This will tell you, he said. The envelope contained a wedding announcement, not engraved, as was customary, merely typeset. This too surprised Mrs. Lawrence. Emmeline never would have accepted so mundane a means of communicating news of such magnitude. The announcement read, Mr. Robert E. Phelps, Miss Emmeline G. Segrand, married. Wednesday, December 7th, 1892, Chicago. Holmes told Mrs. Lawrence he had received his copy from Emmeline herself. Some days after going away, she returned for her mail. He explained in his memoir, and at this time gave me one of her wedding cards, and also 2 or 3 others for tenants in the building who were not then in their rooms. And in response to inquiries later made, I have learned that at least 5 persons in and about Lafayette, Indiana, received such cards. The postmark and her handwriting upon the envelope in which they were enclosed, showing that she must have sent them herself after leaving my employ. The question wasn't whether it was her sending them. The question was whether this was even a real story. Interesting. That's my comment, by the way. They didn't put that in the book. Emmeline's family and friends did receive copies of the announcement through the mail, and indeed those appeared to have been addressed by Emmeline herself. Most likely, Holmes forged the envelopes or else duped Emmeline into preparing them by persuading her they would be used for a legitimate purpose. Perhaps for Christmas cards. Yeah, no, this dude probably killed her and, Anyways, for Mrs. Lawrence, the announcement explained nothing. Emmeline had never mentioned a Robert Phelps. And if Emmeline had come to the building bearing marriage announcements, she surely would have presented one in person. Yeah, I don't know any woman who who doesn't lose her mind over marriage. Like, obviously, it's between you and me. It's fucking stupid, it's fucking dumb, but, women are into that shit, man. The next day, Mrs. Lawrence stopped Holmes yet again, and this time asked what he knew about Phelps. In the same dismissive manner, Holmes said, "Oh, he is a fellow Miss Segran met somewhere. I do not know anything about him except that he is a traveling man." News of Emmeline's marriage reached her hometown newspaper, which reported it on December 8th, 1892, the day after it was supposed to be official. In a small chatty bulletin, the item called Emmeline a lady of refinement, who possesses a character that is strong and pure. Her many friends feel that she has exercised good judgment in selecting a husband and will heartily congratulate her. The item offered a few biographical details, among them the fact that Emmeline once had been employed as a stenographer in the county's recorder's office. From there, the item continued, she went to Dwight, and from there to Chicago, where she met her fate. Fate being the writer's coy allusion to marriage. Huh. Interesting. In the days that followed, Mrs. Lawrence asked Holmes additional questions about Emmeline, but he responded only in monosyllables. She began to think Emmeline's departure as a disappearance and recalled that soon after Emmeline's last visit, a curious change in routine had occurred within Holmes's building. The day after Miss Segran disappeared, or the day we last saw her, the doors of Holmes's office was kept locked, and nobody went into it except Holmes and Patrick Quinlan. Mrs. Lawrence said about 7 o'clock in the evening, Holmes came out of his office and asked 2 men who were living in the building if they would not help him carry a trunk downstairs. The trunk was new and large, about 4 feet long. Its contents clearly were heavy and made the big trunk difficult to manage. Holmes repeatedly cautioned his helpers to be careful with it. An express wagon arrived and took it away. That's comforting. That's very comforting. It's obvious that this girl is okay. Nothing is wrong. The coffin is... Yeah, I'm not even going to try to sugarcoat it. Dude's a murderer. He's a killer. Dude did it. He's as guilty as OJ. Don't even try me. Let's go ahead and land here. So, we've established Holmes is a nut. We've established that he's got a thing for women. And we've established that women have a thing for him. Jeez. Dude puts his hand out of the window and grabs some, Like he's that good. He's Trump level good, Just grabbing him by the you-know-what. But anyways, let's go ahead and land here. Find ourselves a bush. Get a little bit of loot. Nothing wrong with that. Just in case we get to late game. That's why it's always good to have friends, right? Just like, even if you're not the closest people in the world, you don't gotta be. It's just like, You know, sometimes a sanity check is necessary. It just is, you know? It's like, hey, dude, you still alive? Sure, alright. You know? Oh, that's why. Okay. Sorry about that. Let's go ahead and get this chest, get into a bush, and get out of here. Whoa. Rocket ram? What is a rocket ram? I've never heard of this rocket ram. Let's go ahead and... So this rocket ram is going to be misused by me. I hope everybody knows that. Let's go ahead and find... Whoa, no, no, no. Don't be close to me. Don't be close to me. Don't be close to me. Hopefully not. Let's go find a bush here. Call me what you want. I'm selfish. I get it. I want the chest. I don't like people taking my stuff, you know? Hello? Thank you. Yeah, just in case. Alright, we're good. Let's get into the bush. I wonder how this works. I guess we'll find out later. Let's continue. Mrs. Lawrence later claimed that at this point she became convinced Holmes had killed Emmeline. Smart girl. Yet she and her husband made no effort to move from the building, nor did they go to the police. Oh, dumb girl. No one did. Not Mrs. Lawrence, not Mr. and Mrs. Peter Segrand, not Ned Connor, and not Julia's parents. Mr. and Mrs. Andrew Smythe. Interesting. That's why having parents who love you, man, and who stress about you. You young kids who are stupid enough to get mad at your parents for stressing about you, you're dumb. I was one of those kids, so I know what it's like. I can call you dumb because I'm dumb too. It was as if no one expected the police would be interested in yet another disappearance, or if they were, that they would be competent enough to conduct an effective investigation. Soon after, Emmeline's own trunk, filled with her belongings and all the clothing she had brought with her when she left home in 1891 to work for Keeley, arrived at a freight depot near her hometown. Her parents at first hoped, she had sent the trunk home because now that she was marrying a wealthy man, she no longer needed such old and worn things. The Segrands received no further mail from Emmeline, not even at Christmas. This, said Dr. B.J. Segrand, Emmeline's second cousin, the North Side dentist, in spite of the fact that she was in the habit of writing to her parents 2 or 3 times a week. Emmeline's parents still did not imagine murder. However, Peter Segrand said, I had at last come to the belief she must have died in Europe, and her husband either did not know our address or neglected to notify us. They're still going with this husband thing, huh? The Segrands and Lawrences would have found their anxiety intensified manyfold had they known a few other facts. That the name Phelps was an alias that Holmes's assistant, Benjamin Peitzel, had used when he first met Emmeline at the Keeley Institute. That on January 2nd, 1893, Holmes again had enlisted the help of Charles Chappell, the articulator, and sent him a trunk containing the corpse of a woman, her upper body stripped nearly bare of flesh. Jeez. That a few weeks later, the LaSalle Medical College of Chicago had taken delivery of a nicely articulated skeleton. Oh, that's fantastic. And that something peculiar had occurred in a room-sized vault in Holmes's building. A phenomenon that, when finally discovered by police 3 years later, would defy scientific explanation. All right, so let me go ahead and reposition, because I want to figure out what this dude did. I mean, look, call me weird, okay? It is what it is. It's a murder mystery. What do you think I was going to get into? Get over here, you Karibo. Get over here. Nice. It's my man right there. It's my guy. Let's go ahead and reposition. Don't tell me. Don't tell me. Don't tell me. Ooh. Okay, this is gonna be a little bit of a rough rotation. Jeez, because we're gonna have to go through the bank. Unless we don't have to. Oh, I like that. What the hell is that? A business turret. You know what? You only live once. Let's go ahead and give it a chance. Shoot. I'm just trying to reposition so I can get back to my book, bro. I know this bastard is crouching around here somewhere. I know it. Yeah, go fight over there. I don't like that bush. That bush is a little too close to where they're fighting. Call me crazy, but in the age of texting, if your daughter texts you on a daily basis and she chooses not to text you just out of nowhere, right? She just stops like communicating with you. If she's not dead, you know, if she hasn't been murdered, you better be the reason why she is murdered, right? Like I would kill my daughter. I told you you better text me every morning. You don't do it? All right. So you want to die. That's what I'm hearing. Gotta be careful here. I'm in the middle of no man's land. Jeez, man. Circle is far the hell away, man. Jeez. Okay, we're good. Nope, we're not. Jeez. This bush works good enough. All right. Let's continue. Somehow, a footprint had become etched into the smooth enameled finish on the inside of the vault room at a point roughly 2 feet above the floor. The toes, the ball, and the heel were so clearly outlined as to leave no doubt that a woman had left the print. The degree of detail mystified the police, as did the print's resilience. They tried rubbing it off by hand, then with a cloth and soap and water, but it remained as clear as ever. Oh, that's fucking terrifying, man. Oh, that's just harsh to think about, right? Like obviously it's somebody's daughter, and but just like the marks of her fight still existed, like the marks of her struggle with this guy, right? No one could explain it with any certainty. The best guess posited that Holmes had lured a woman into the vault, that the woman was shoeless at the time, perhaps nude, and that Holmes then had closed the airtight door to lock her inside. She had left the print in a last hopeless effort to force the door open. Jeez. To explain the print's permanence, detectives theorized that Holmes, known to have an avid interest in chemistry, had first poured a sheen of acid onto the floor to hasten, by chemical reaction, the consumption of oxygen in the vault. The theory held that Emmeline had stepped in the acid, then placed her feet against the door, thus literally etching the print into the enamel. Oh no. But again, this revelation came much later. As of the start of 1893, the year of the fair, no one, including Holmes, had noticed the footprint on the door. Oh, that's rough. That's a rough one, man. That's one of those depressing ones where it's like, she put up a fight. The fact that it ever happened to begin with is terrible. I get that. I'm not saying it's not terrible, but the fact that she had to put up this level of fight, she was alive, she was well, and this dude was just, to say he was like a bad dude would be disrespect to bad dudes. This dude wasn't bad. He's just, I don't know. I don't know if evil's the right word, because evil has something to do with like moral positioning. I don't know. I feel like this is better left described as just someone who's like insidious, right? He's a sadist. He gets off on torture. That's a rough one, man. Absolutely rough one, man. All right, hold on. Just checking. That's the end of that subchapter, so we'll go ahead and read the next one. Let me go ahead and put up some volume here. Me being in this bush is a close call, man. Look at this circle. Whew. Gotta go again. Jeez, man. Gosh, alright. What is this? Whoa. Oh, I like that. Oh, dude. Oh, I'm in. Bit longer of a cooldown time than I would love, but you know, you can take what you can take. Don't love this position here. Gotta go that way, huh? Tell me why I feel like they're over here. Whoa. This little bastard go. Okay. Go, 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 go. Oh, nice try, me. Nice try. Yeah, I wish it could go a little quicker, but I like that new little weapon. I don't know what it is, but I like it. Oh, we won? What a loser. He didn't win anything. I wasn't even playing for real, for real. It wasn't even for real, for real. Let's check on the uploads before we get back to the book. 80%, part 10, and then old live stream. That thing's got to be long because it's barely at like 20-something%. All right, how long has this video been going? Just want to make sure I don't want to... Ooh, I like that screensaver, man. Just want to make sure this video doesn't go for too long so that they're split evenly. 44 minutes. We can make this one an hour long. I'm not against that. I like that screensaver. I don't know what it is about that. That's nice. It's very nice. The next subchapter is going to be called The Cold-Blooded Fact. At the start of January of 1893, the weather turned cold and stayed cold, the temperature falling to 20 degrees below zero, and this dawn tours Burnham faced a hard, pale world. Cairns of frozen horse manure punctuated the landscape. Along the banks of the wooded island, ice 2 feet thick locked Olmsted's bulrush and sedge in cruel contortions. Burnham saw that Olmsted's work was far behind, and now Olmsted's man in Chicago, Harry Codman, upon whom everyone had come to depend, was in the hospital recovering from surgery. His recurring illness had turned out to be appendicitis. The operation under Ether had gone well, and Codman was recuperating, but his recovery would be slow. Only 4 months remained until opening day. Yeah, these are businessmen, man. These are the kind of people who, if you get shot in the foot, they'll tell you to walk it off. Those kinds of guys. Very, very tough. And by tough, they are just telling you to not show any emotions, because who cares about emotions, right? Haha. Yeah, nobody cares about emotions. I'm not sure I want to land here. I'm going to go over there. Emotions, one of the best parts of life, and we're told we can't experience them. Yeah. Okay. I see a bot landing over there. Let me go show him a thing or two before I... Wait, someone's here around me? It can't be around me, can it? I don't even want to fight that. I want to fight this guy. Where's this clown at? If I could get a bush here, I'm gonna just wait him out. Nothing in here, huh? I mean, I guess I could wait in a bus. Would I rather just wait here? Sure. Not the end of the world. If he finds me, whatever. Let's continue reading. The extreme cold increased the threats of fire. The necessary fires alone, the salamanders and tinners' pots, had caused dozens of small blazes, easily put out, but the cold increased the likelihood of far worse. It froze water lines and hydrants and drove workers to break Burnham's ban on smoking in open flame. The men of the Colombian Guard stepped up their vigilance. It was they who suffered most from the cold, standing watch around the clock in far-flung reaches of the park where no shelter existed. The winter of 1892-93 will always be remembered by those who served on the Guard during that period, wrote Colonel Rice, their commander. Its members most dreaded being assigned to an especially bleak sector at the extreme south end of the park below the agriculture building. They called it Siberia. Colonel Rice used their dread to his advantage. Any guard ordered to the post along the south fence, along the south fence, would realize that he had been guilty of some minor breach of discipline, or that his personal appearance rendered him too unsightly for the more public parts of the ground. Man, you're so ugly, you deserve to be on the south side. Get out there. Jeez, man. Oh, I see this clown. Can I take a shot? Go ahead and do it to him. Where's he at? If he comes out, I want to cheese him. I don't want him out of here. Oh, you poor sap. Dude's running for his life. I'm good. You know what? I'm glad I didn't fight him. That dude's on a mission. I don't know. His girl might have told him she was home alone or something. I don't know. Oh, if I take these shots, I'm going down. I promise you. You know, for landing at the edge of the zone, there's a lot of busyness out here, and I don't like busyness. I kind of just want to chill out in the bush. Kind of forgot I don't have a lot of bullets here. Ooh, don't mind if I do. Fair game, fair game. I was ill prepared. Oh, this might be the gun Johnny was talking to me about. This is like the pump and dump with the little Porter Rift attachment to it. Battery sold separately. Yeah, dude, you're lucky I got you down to that health. One more swing, you would have been donezo, dude. Just letting you know. And I'm reading over here. Let's continue. George Ferris fought the cold with dynamite, the only efficient way to penetrate the 3-foot crust of frozen earth that now covered Jackson Park. Once opened, the ground still posed problems. Just beneath the crust lay a 20-foot stratum of the same quicksand Chicago builders always confronted. Only now it was ice cold and a torment to workers. The men used jets of live stream to thaw dirt and prevent newly poured cement from freezing. They drove timber piles to hard pan 32 feet underground. On top of these, they laid a grillage of steel, then filled it with cement. To keep the excavated chambers as dry as possible, they ran pumps 24 hours a day. They repeated the process for each of the 8 140-foot towers that would support the Ferris wheel's giant axle. At first, Ferris's main worry was whether he would acquire enough steel to build his machine. He realized, however, that he had an advantage over anyone else trying to place a new order. Though his steel inspection company, he knew most of the nation's steel executives and the products they made. He was able to pull in favors and spread his orders among many different companies. No one shop could begin to do all the work. Therefore, contracts were led to a dozen different firms, each being chosen because of some peculiar fitness for the work entrusted to it. According to an account by Ferris's company, Ferris also commanded a legion of inspectors who evaluated the quality of each component as it emerged from each mill. This proved to be a vital benefit, since the wheel was a complex assemblage of 100,000 parts that ranged in size from small bolts to the giant axle, which at the time of its manufacture by Bethlehem Steel, what a name, Bethlehem Steel, was the largest one-piece casting ever made. Absolute precision was necessary, as few of the parts could be put together until they were upon the ground, and an error of the smallest fraction of an inch might be fatal. Yeah, that might be a problem. Yeah, completely agree. The wheel Ferris envisioned actually consisted of two wheels spaced 30 feet apart on the axle. That had frightened Burnham. At first, was the apparent insubstantiality of the design. Each wheel was essentially a gigantic bicycle wheel. Slender iron rods, just 2.5 inches thick and 80 feet long, linked the rim or felloe of each wheel to a spider affixed to the axle. Struts and diagonal rods ran between the two wheels to stiffen the assembly and give it the strength of a railroad bridge. A chain weighing 20,000 pounds connected a sprocket of the axle to sprockets driven by twin thousand horsepower. Twin thousand horsepower. That's how you know it's strong. It's not even a number. It's twin, like twin babies. Twin thousand horsepower steam engines. For aesthetic reasons, the boilers were to be located 700 feet outside the midway. The steam shunted to the engines through 10-inch underground pipes. This, at least, is how it looked on paper. Just digging and installing the foundation, however, had proven more difficult than Ferris and Rice had expected, and they knew that far greater hurdles lay ahead. Foremost among them, the challenge of raising the huge axle to its mount atop the 8 towers. Together with its fittings, the axle weighed 142,031 pounds. Nothing that heavy had ever been lifted before, let alone to such a height. I don't know, I feel like I kind of bench press that every time I get to working out, but, they know better than me, I guess. I guess. You're just going to leave that big pot? Dude, you're... Put down the pump and dump and take 2 big pots. Take that. Really? You're going to keep the pump and dump? You're married to it? Ugh, you're so lame. Let's continue. Olmsted in Brookline got the news by telegram. Harry Codman was dead. Codman, his protege, whom he loved like a son. He was 29. You will have heard of our great calamity, Olmsted wrote to his friend Gifford Pinchot. As yet I am as one standing on a wreck and can hardly see when we shall be afloat again. Damn, that's deep. I'm going to read that again. As yet I am as one standing on a wreck and can hardly see when we shall be afloat again. Olmsted recognized that now he himself would have to take over direct supervision of the exposition work, but he felt less up to the duty than ever. He and Phil, Harry's brother, arrived in Chicago at the beginning of February to find the city locked in brutal cold, the temperature 8 degrees below zero. On February 4th, he sat down at Codman's desk for the first time and found it awash with stacks of invoices and memoranda. Olmsted's head raged with noise and pain. He had a sore throat. He was deeply sad. The task of sorting through Codman's accumulated papers and of taking over the exposition work now seemed beyond him. He asked a former assistant, Charles Eliot, now one of Boston's best landscape architects, if he would come to help. After some hesitation, Eliot agreed. On arrival, Eliot saw immediately that Olmsted was ill. By the evening of February 17, 1893, as a blizzard bore down on Chicago, Olmsted was under a doctor's care, confined to his hotel. Yeah, I mean, these guys are just going down, man. They're working around the clock, and they're in Chicago. I mean, that weather is no joke. The same night, Olmsted wrote to John in Brookline. Weariness and sorrow frightened each page of his letter. Oh, freighted. Freighted? F-R-E-I-G-H-T-E-D. Freighted each page of his letter. It looks as if the time has come when it is necessary for you to count me out. Oh, he wrote. The work in Chicago had begun to look hopeless. It is very plain that as things are, we are not going to be able to do our duty here. Damn. By early March, Olmsted and Elliot were back in Brookline. Elliot now a full-fledged partner. The firm newly renamed Olmsted and Elliot. The exposition work was still far behind schedule and a major source of worry, but Olmsted's health and the pressure of other work had forced him from Chicago. With deep misgivings, Olmsted had left the work in the care of his superintendent, Rudolph Ulrich, whom he had come to distrust. On March 11th, Olmsted dispatched a long letter to Ulrich, full of instructions. I have never before, in all the numerous works for which I have been broadly responsible, trusted as much to the discretion of an assistant or cooperator, Olmsted wrote, and the results have been such that in the straits in which we are placed by the death of Mr. Codman and my ill health, the consequent excessive pressure of the other duties, I am more than ever disposed to pursue this policy and to carry it further. But I must confess that I cannot do so without much anxiety. It's another way of saying, hey, I kind of need you on this, but I don't fucking trust you. That's exactly what he's saying. He made it clear that this anxiety was due to Ulrich, specifically Ulrich's constitutional propensity to lose sight of the broad scheme and throw himself into minute tasks better handled by subordinates. A trait that Olmsted feared had left Ulrich vulnerable to demands by other officials, in particular Burnham. Never lose sight of the fact that our special responsibility as landscape artists applies primarily to the broad, comprehensive scenery of the exposition, Olmsted wrote. The emphasis were his. This duty is not to make a garden or to produce garden effects, but relates to the scenery of the exposition as a whole. First of all, and most essentially, the scenery in a broad and comprehensive way. If, for a lack of time and means, or of good weather, we come short in matters of detailed decoration, our failure will be excusable. If we fall short in matters affecting broad landscape effects, we shall fail in our primary and essential duty. He went on to identify for Ulrich the things that most worried him about the fair, among them the color scheme chosen by Burnham and the architects. Let me remind you that the whole field of the exposition has already come to be popularly called the White City. I fear that against the clear blue skies and the blue lake, great towering masses of white glistening in the clear, hot summer sunlight of Chicago, with the glare of the winter that we are to have both within and without the exposition grounds, will be overpowering. This, he wrote, made it more important than ever to provide a counterbalance of dense, broad, luxuriant green bodies of foliage. Yeah, I agree. You don't want to make it look like an insane asylum, right, where it's just a bunch of white. Did this dude just drop two of the most important guns on the planet? Okay. Grab a chug. Enjoy yourself a little. Come on. This dude better win the game with that pumping up. I want to see it. Clearly, the possibility of failure at the exposition had occurred to Olmsted and troubled him. Time was short. The weather, terrible. The spring planting season would be brief. Olmsted had begun to think in terms of fallback arrangements. He warned Ulrich, Do not lay out to do anything in the way of decorative planting, that you shall not be quite certain that you will have the ample time and means to perfect of its kind. There can be little fault found with simple, neat turf. Do not be afraid of plain, undecorated, smooth surfaces. It was far better, Olmsted lectured, to under-decorate than to over-decorate. I agree. Let us be thought over much plain and simple, even bare, rather than gaudy. Oh, I get what he's saying. Let us be thought over much plain and simple, even bare rather than gaudy, flashy, cheap, and meretricious. Let us manifest the taste of gentlemen. Right. I agree. Oh, dude, you're about to get sniped in the dome. Snow fell, bales of it. It fell day after day until hundreds of tons of it lay upon the rooftops at Jackson Park. The exposition was to be a warm weather affair set to run from May through October. No one had thought to design the roofs to resist such extreme loading from snow. Men working at the manufacturers and liberal arts building heard the shriek of failed steel and ran for cover. In a great blur of snow and silvery glass, the building's roof, that marvel of late 19th century hubris, enclosing the greatest volume of unobstructed space in history, collapsed to the floor below. Soon afterward, a reporter from San Francisco made his way to Jackson Park. He had come prepared to admire the grand achievement of Burnham's army of workers, but instead found himself troubled by what he saw in the stark, frozen landscape. This seemed to be an impossibility, he wrote. To be sure, those in charge claim that they will be ready on time. Still, the cold-blooded fact stares one in the face that only the women's building is anywhere near completion inside and out. Yet the fair was to open in little more than 2 months. Jeez, man. Can't do shit right, man. So far, the fair is just, it's not looking good. It's not looking like it's going to be anything. You got a murderer on the loose down the street. He's looking to use the fair as a massive, just like, I don't know, pool of victims, if that's a phrase or a term. But, the book is getting juicy. It's getting good. We're more than halfway through. See you next time. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.